Hi, I'm Heidi Billotto for Charlotte Living's Culinary Online. One of my favorite things in my brand new kitchen garden are beets. My husband Tom and I love fresh beets. I roast them, I put them on the grill, I use them in soups, I use them in salads, and I'm going to share with you one of my favorite new recipes shared with me by my good friend Pat Walker, who lives in Jacksonville, Florida. So what this recipe does is start with roasted beets, and once you have roasted beets you can go a million different ways. So here's the easiest way. When you pull the beets out of the ground, or if you buy them in the grocery store, the food supermarket, or the farmer's market, this is what they're going to look like. You've got the beet greens on top, and you've got your beet, which is the root and the tail end. So we're going to chop off the greens. Now, as long as the greens look pretty, you can use those to eat and chop them up, add them to the salad if you want to do that. They have a little bit of the taste of a beet, but not exactly. So that's what we've got. Now, if you would start to peel this and chop it up, the beet is very red, and it's going to stain your cutting board, your knife, your hands, and it'll come out of your hands in a little bit. It'll come out of your cutting board a little bit longer. Spray some Windex on there. So, it takes some days to get that stain out. And if it gets on your clothes, sometimes it can be a permanent stain. So what we're going to do is roast them in the skin so we don't have to deal with that red stain at all. So we're going to take a piece of aluminum foil, take the whole beet. We just cut it off at the root end. We left the tip. We left everything. Put it in the foil and wrap it up. And you put this in the oven to bake like a baked potato. 400, 450 degrees for about an hour or so. And I just put a bunch of them together in a little roasting pan or lasagna pan, or this is just a little saute pan with short handles so it can go in the oven. I put them all together there. I roast them. I pull them out. I let them cool. And then I put them back in my refrigerator, still wrapped in the foil, and I just unwrap them as I need them. Now, for this recipe for the beet soup, we need several beets. So here's one that's already been roasted. We'll move these little guys out of the way. Our already roasted beet, we're going to open up, and you can see it's cooled now. It's all wrinkly. We have a little bit of the red beet juice at the bottom. The skin just literally rubs right off. You don't have to use a peeler or anything. I am getting a little bit on my hands, but that washes right away. So once we get all the skin peeled back, we're going to take a knife and cut off the root. And then all these pieces of beet are going to get cut into equal size pieces. So like a half a beet, a third of a beet. We're going to put them in the food processor, and that's the beginning to our beet puree. If you didn't want to make the soup and you just wanted to do a beet salad, just take the beets and slice them like that. Put those on a salad, on a bed of arugula, with some of your beet greens. It would be delicious. Or you can cut them in quarters and throw them in the food processor, or you can slice them very thin and put them with some thinly sliced onions and a little bit of vinegar on top and make a pickled beet. So there's lots of different variations and options. We're going to take all of these pieces, put them right in the processor there, and then to that we're going to add a little bit of chopped up onion, Vidalia onion, or any kind of local onion that you want to use, and some thyme. This is fresh lemon thyme from my herb garden. So we're going to take that and chop them up. As long as the stems are tender, you can take the herbs and roll them up in a bundle, just like we do any kind of fresh herbs, or like we did the recipe for the tomato pie this time, the basil in the tomato pie. Chop that up. This is called a chiffonade of thyme, or whatever herb you're using. That goes right in the processor. Add a little bit more. A really fine little chop. It doesn't have to be so teeny tiny because it's going to get pureed in the processor. A little bit of onion. This happens to be a Vidalia onion. We're going to cut off the top, peel back the skin because we don't want to cry. And if you cut off the root end of the onion, you're going to start to cry. Most of the oil of the onion is in the root end, so the trick is just not to peel off the root end. This is a pretty tight little onion here to peel. But we want to peel back as much as we can. And you can see that pink of the beet is getting on here a little bit. Well, we wound up getting off the first layer of onion, but that's okay. Again, I'm not crying until I cut off the root end. because the oil of the onion has a chemical reaction with oxygen, and that chemical reaction affects your mucous membrane. So you start to, your eyes start to tear, your nose starts to run. Just a little bit of onion, about half of a small Vidalia. So this we're going to chop up. It goes into our food processor. And then we're going to puree all of that together. So when the beets and the onions are really pureed together, then we're going to just dress up the taste a little bit. So let me show you what we've got. It's almost the consistency of an applesauce. Just a really pretty beet puree. And you could serve this on a plate as a little smear across with some sliced pork roast on there if you wanted to, but it's so much nicer to make it be bulky and be more of a vegetable. So we're going to do it as the soup. About, I don't know, 4 or 5 tablespoons of red wine vinegar, because you've got the sweet beets, so now we're going to give it a little bit of acid. About 1.5 cups or 2 of chicken broth, or you can use a vegetable broth if you want to. Puree all that together. Now we're just going to check for texture. So it's still a little thick for a soup. So we're going to add the rest of our chicken broth right in there. Now, here's a great tip when you're pureeing any kind of vegetable in your food processor. To transfer it from the processor to a serving bowl, because now the soup is done. It's a cold soup, or you could heat it up if you wanted to serve it hot. It's going to be easier to pour it in a measuring cup and then take it from the measuring cup to our serving dishes. So we'll take the food processor off the stand. The blade is still in the bottom there. So if you want to take your middle finger, put it up inside the hole, you can hold on to the blade so the soup pours through, but the blade doesn't fall out. Really good tip. And you wouldn't have wanted to put too much more liquid in that, because that's why you saw the food processor dripping there. Now we've got some cute little cups to serve our summer soup in. It's a gorgeous color. What I want to do this summer is take my homegrown beets, make this soup, and freeze it, and then I'll have it for the holidays, where I can have this gorgeous red soup to serve as a first course. In that case, I'd probably serve it hot. We're going to top this with a little bit of sour cream, or you can use a little bit of creme fraiche if you want. Just a little bit floating right there on top. Or you can whip cream and do that too. Then it's ready to serve. People can take it and sip it from the cup, or you can serve it with a little bit longer iced tea spoon or espresso spoon. It's a beautiful way to start a summer dinner, or you can put it in a thermos and take it with you to a picnic. Have fun cooking from your garden. I'm Heidi Billotto for Charlotte Living's Culinary Online.